After 8 months of this, we knew that we were a bit in over our heads with our Bengal cat, Nova. We tried to train her to stop biting from day one, but trust me, she just did not care. No amount of ignoring, yelping, biting back, none of it worked. And no amount of toy play, dog play, or cat wheel running was enough to tire her out. We knew when we got a Bengal that for this very reason, they say 2 is better than 1. But we have a high energy dog and we thought that they would keep each other busy. And they did play, but ultimately cats and dogs have different play styles, and Nova definitely wanted to play much more often than Ezra. They both get pretty aggressive, and I was always afraid that she'd accidentally scratch his eye. Nova wanted to attack and she wanted to wrestle, and at this point we realized that the only thing that could truly keep up with her was another cat. The thought of getting a second Bengal was utterly frightening and completely out of the question. And since I have allergies, unfortunately we couldn't just adopt any cat. We wanted to make sure their personality and energy level would be a good match with Nova and that they'd also get along with our dog Ezra. I knew about the Abyssinian breed from a friend who had a pair, and after learning more about them and that Bengals and Abbeys are actually a common pairing, we found a reputable breeder nearby, and serendipitously she had one male kitten left from her last litter who was ready to find his forever home. He was 5 months old, had a friendly personality, showed no signs of being dominant or territorial, and already had experience with dogs. He sounded like a perfect fit for our family, and a few weeks later we picked him up. The first night, Conan slept with Roman in a separate bedroom since we wanted to make sure that he had time to settle in and we wanted Nova to get used to his scent. Ezra and Conan were already well acquainted from the ride home, but the next day we could tell Nova was really on edge since she knew that there was another cat in the house, but she hadn't seen him yet. Conan was very well socialized, and we knew that Nova would be more at ease if she could see him, so we decided it would be best for them to meet. Here's how it went.
It's okay, the cats are bonding. You don't have to whine. They're getting to know each other. It's cat stuff, you wouldn't understand.
As you can see, Nova and Conan started playing right away, and we were so happy that we not only made the right decision with getting Nova a friend, but that we also chose the right breed with a similar energy level. Before I get to the pros and cons of having 2 cats, I want to give an update on Nova's personality and how she's changed since my last video. She was a 5-month-old single kitten at that time, and now she's a 1.5 years and a big sister. Some of how she's changed is because we got a second cat, and some of it is just because she's a grown-ass cat now. Nova is still very curious, she still loves water, she's still intelligent and chatty. When it's cooking time and she's locked in the bedroom, she still screams bloody murder. And right now she's messing with some things back there. As you saw in the beginning of this video, Nova used to constantly bite and play very rough. I am so pleased to report that since getting Conan, she's basically completely stopped biting us. Usually I'm frightened when Nova's playing around my feet because I know a bite is coming, but she hasn't bit me. She's just chilling. It used to happen every day, multiple times a day, but now it pretty much happens never, and if it does, she's really gentle. I could tell that Nova probably did not spend enough time with her litter mates to learn what acceptable play was, and that's why she was so rough. Playing with Conan definitely taught her acceptable boundaries, but it did come with a blood sacrifice because very early on, she bit his ear too hard and it got infected. When she first started playing with him, she always played top and she was rough. Nova is pure muscle and very strong, and she was totally giving him the little brother beating. We'd hear Conan make struggle sounds, and sometimes he'd hiss at her to back off so they could reset, but he did always want to keep playing. She definitely learned that she was too hard on him, and she switched to playing bottom and letting Conan play top. She still chases him and pounces on him, but she always lets him play top since he's a tiny guy, so I think it's more fun for both of them. Nova was very much a little annoying sister to Ezra, but since Conan came along, she really stepped into her big sister role. Even though we set up 2 litter boxes for them, she was cool with him using hers. She always lets him eat from her bowl and always lets him play with toys while she kind of just hangs back. It was really sweet watching her take him under his wing, and within days, they were grooming each other and sleeping together. In terms of energy level, Nova completely changed after getting Conan. Now that she's getting the physical stimulation that she needs, she's no longer up for hours looking for her next victim or the next thing to keep her entertained. Yes, she's no longer a kitten, but she is still a Bengal. I'd say she's still up and about longer than most cats, but she definitely sleeps more throughout the day now, and I know it's because she has a playmate to release her energy and not because of her age, because a year and a half is still quite young for a cat. Nova used to be very bold and brave, and she didn't seem like she had any of those skittish cat self-preservation qualities. But interestingly, she's now a lot more cautious than she used to be. Even though we took her outside a few times when she was young and she enjoyed it, when we took her outside when she was older, she was definitely much more aware of her surroundings and on the lookout for danger. She seems to like observing from a safe place now. When she's in a new environment, she still settles in pretty quickly, but she's definitely a lot more cautious when she explores. Nova used to be much more of a Velcro cat, very clingy, very affectionate, and you can pick her up and she'd hang out. Nova's still affectionate, but on her own terms. When she's ready for a nap, she'll cuddle up beside you or in between your legs. She loves sleeping under the blanket, but when she's up and awake, she doesn't really like affection and she's not chill with being held. You can hold her for about 2 to 5 seconds before she starts to climb off. 2, 3, 4, 5. But she does like to perch on backs, so if I happen to squat down or bend over, I gotta be ready for a surprise leap onto my back.
And then she'll just hang out here for like, as long as she wants. Okay, go, get down. Ow, now she doesn't want to get down. I'm like trying to get her to get off and she's like digging her claws into my back.
She's playing real
Ow! Nova!
Nova.
Ow, 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 ow!
Overall, I'd say her personality is more or less the same. She's just a little bit more independent now and a lot less bitey. Now let's chat about the pros and cons of having 2 cats. The biggest pro is they have a friend.
Conan.
They have someone to play with to meet their physical needs and someone to keep them company to meet their emotional and social needs. It honestly brings me so much joy when I see them playing together, hanging out together, grooming each other. Even when we lock them up while we're cooking, at least they're locked up together. Since cats can be pretty active well into the night while we're still sleeping, it makes me so happy to know that they're chilling together. It makes me think about how bored Nova probably used to be when she was just alone by herself roaming. And since their needs are being met, it also reduces any behavioral problems. As I mentioned, Nova's unrelenting biting
completely stopped when we got Conan. Although each cat is still going to have their own individual personality, it does make it easier to introduce them to new environments when they have a companion there for safety and security. And if we need to be out of the house for several hours, we don't have to worry about them being lonely. So what are the not so fun things about having 2 cats? Double pooping and double scooping. If your cats choose to use the same litter box, then it does mean more scooping throughout the day to make sure that their litter box is always clean. And you can get an automated litter box to help with this, but that leads me to my next point: more cats equals more cost. Your food, supplies, and vet bills will double. So make sure you're financially comfortable enough to support more than 1 cat. If it's gonna put a strain on your finances, then it's gonna stress you out, and it's probably gonna put a strain on your relationship with your cats. So do the math and make sure that you can comfortably support another cat before you decide to get one. Getting a sitter for 1 cat is hard enough, but getting a sitter for 2 is even harder. I know some folks will leave their cats at home and have someone come in to feed them, but Bengals and Abyssinians are both really social breeds who enjoy human interaction. 90% of the time, all of our pets are in the same room as us, and they follow us from room to room wherever we go. So even though they have each other, they still want human connection and need to be around people to be happy. So if you're getting a second cat, first think about who is going to watch them while you're away. Personally, I'm not really a fan of just getting someone to do me a favor and just watch them and feed them. I want someone who is going to truly love and take care of my cats. Thankfully for us, we have friends and family to help us out. I know there's a lot of services now where you can find a reputable sitter who'll stay in your house and look after your pets, but back to my last point, that can get quite costly. So whether you decide to find a friend or pay for a service, just make sure it's something that you think about ahead of time. And last, more cats means more chaos. It means 2 curious critters that can get into trouble, 8 paws on the counter, double the things that can be pushed onto the floor, and learning how to carry both of them at once so you can throw them in jail together. Finished. Ezra, It can mean supporting different diets. Conan has a much more sensitive stomach than Nova, and it can mean needing to supervise during feeding times if one cat is more of a hungry hippo than the other, which seems to usually be the case. Stop it. You already had your whole meal. Let Nova eat her own food.
So ultimately, it can mean double the time and triple the patience, but it also does mean more love and joy. But you do pay for that love and joy with your money and your mind, so you have to decide if it's worth it for you. To be clear, all the pros I listed are based off the fact that your 2 cats actually get along, and that's not always the case. Sometimes you end up with cats that simply exist together, or just tolerate each other, or worse, they don't get along. This can be tough to predict, but I do have some tips that will hopefully help you find the right friend for your cat. The first basic tip is just to know which genders actually pair well together. A male and female is the best pairing because they're less likely to fight over dominance. A male and male is the second best pairing because they're more likely to play rough with each other. The least ideal pairing is a female and female because they tend to be more cautious and territorial. That doesn't mean it's not possible to have 2 females, but it's probably more likely that they'll be in the exist together zone rather than the best friend zone. Try to introduce them as young as possible. Don't wait for your kitten to become a cat. It is best if you can introduce them as early as possible so that they can grow up together. Once we considered all the cons and decided that getting a second cat was best for us, we basically started looking right away. Nova was 9 months at that time, and we knew it was better for younger kittens to meet than older cats. That doesn't mean that you can't introduce cats when they're older, or that if you do, it's not going to go well. You just have a higher likelihood of it going well if they're both young and they have more of a match in terms of energy level and play needs. Consider your cat's play and social needs. Bengals have a higher need for play than most
house cats, they can be demanding and not all breeds play well with them because they can be overwhelming. Abyssinians are also an active, high-energy breed, so we knew that matching these traits was critical to make sure that they got along. You don't want to pair a playful social cat with a more reserved lap cat who's just going to get annoyed with them. So you have to figure out, does your cat need a playmate, or do they just need another quiet cat to keep them company? If you find a good match, then it can also help speed up the introduction process. I know there's different opinions on how you should introduce cats. Some people say keep them separate for a few days, some a few weeks, but there's also ways to introduce them immediately. So I don't think there's any right way or one way to do it. I think there's just the way that is best for your cats and their individual personalities. So make sure you know your cat. Nova met Roman's parents' cat when she was a kitten, and that gave us an idea of how she was with new cats. Although she thought about stepping up to their cat, ultimately we saw that she just wanted to play, and yes, there was hissing, which is totally normal, but she never showed any signs of aggression. Along with knowing your own cat, try to learn as much as possible about the cat that you're considering. Are they well socialized? Do they show signs of dominance? Are they affectionate? Do they like to be alone? Are they playful? Don't just pick the cute one. Do your best to evaluate whether they'd actually be a good match for your cat. Part of knowing your cat is determining, does your cat even need another cat? Some cats are actually fine being the only kitty in the house because they get their love and companionship from you. Not every cat is going to do better with a second cat. Getting a second cat should enhance their lives and not make it more difficult. In my case, getting Conan was absolutely the best decision for our family. Even though there's a lot more chaos, for us, the pros outweigh the cons and everyone is happier because of it. I'm going to be doing a deep dive on Conan and the Abyssinian breed next. Subscribe so you don't miss it. Give this video a like if you enjoyed it, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!